Well, I think it's always newsworthy when somebody on social media platforms with a substantially large following passes away suddenly. And this recently happened with a YouTuber by the name of Kevin Samuels. Now, I have a 2022 rule that's going into effect. And it goes like this. I'm only giving RIPs to people who deserve them this year. If you don't deserve an RIP, I'm not saying RIP. There's a lot here to unpack. Kevin Samuels was a famous YouTuber who became very popular based off of his philosophical ideas surrounding relationships, modern day dating. You see, dating in the past was a lot different than dating now. So on the surface, it sounds like having modern philosophies from modern times makes sense. But even the past relationship experts, let's be honest, were they right with the relationship advice they used to give on the radio? No, because a lot of those marriages ended in divorce. We have a higher divorce rate than marriage rate in this country, and we've had this for a long period of time. It might be another right that the conservative Supreme Court might take away from women. The right to file for divorce. You never know. They're going for a lot of basic privacy rights of women. But this modern relationship advice was rooted in some very dark, insidious, toxic masculinity-driven games that often go benign and unnoticed in our general society. I'm going to explain what they are. Kevin Samuels talked often about high-value men and low-value men. Now, a high-value man, according to Kevin Samuels' definition, was someone who makes six figures. Now, everyone who doesn't make six figures then automatically becomes low value or lower value than the higher value individual. So it's all about finances and money. Totally about money. Now we know relationships. We all know this. People with a lot of money. There's been a lot of public divorces lately, but even before lately. So if finances and how much you make was the sole predicate of whether you're going to have a good relationship or not, shouldn't no rich individuals ever get a divorce? So the whole high value, low value thing is stupid to begin with. It doesn't make any sense. That's not why a relationship doesn't work. Yes, people argue about money, but it's one of many arguments. There's a number of factors that lead to a declining in a relationship. And to say that a relationship is all about finances, well, here's what happens. Say you're high value and somebody starts dating you. Your finances take a little nosedive and you're no longer considered high value. Then you run into some financial trouble and you look and you're falling back even further. Now you're really not high value. So that's why that principle is sort of kind of flawed. Because finances itself is volatile. One year you might have a lot of money. The next year you might not. Look, a lot of people were wealthy in 2021 who are now broke in 2022. People's money was good last year. Now people's money is iffy this year, especially with inflation. So you got to be very careful when you predicate happiness on finances. Last year, maybe you went to Six Flags. You and your girlfriend. Now this year, you can't go to Six Flags. You don't have the money. When you get married, you take a vow, right? For better or for worse. In sickness and in health. Once you take the vow, you gotta know you took that vow. You locked yourself into that contract. You said till death do you part. So you gotta really know. A lot of people, they get spoiled. They went on vacation last year. They can't afford it this year. Arguments start. Then domestic violence. Then before you know it, somebody snaps. And maybe does the unthinkable. All this because of this high value, low value concept. When in actuality, all you're really doing is comparing yourself to other people with a higher value than you. Because there's always going to be somebody richer than all of these men online saying that they're high value. Come on, please. They're on YouTube. So you got to predicate that with a grain of salt, so to speak. And then there's the rating game. The scale. This is so misogynistic. This has deep roots in misogyny. Now when you scale someone, you're weighing. One more. My apologies. We were talking about scaling. When you scale someone, basically, you're weighing them. Now, even though you know you're not being weighted, your brain still associates scale with weight. That's by no accident that men do this. They know subconsciously women are always concerned about weight issues. So this scaling is deeply rooted in misogyny, psychological misogyny warfare. Now they do it in appearance. Nobody ever goes up to anyone's face, at least that I know of in the general public, and tells a person, "You're ugly." Is that a general thing that people go up to people and tell people they're ugly? I was told this in Hollywood, that I was ugly. But the individual that told me this was not exactly, I don't know. What I'm saying is, it's not generally known that people walk up to other people and say that they're ugly. But for whatever reason, when people are online, they feel like they can say any old shit. Now, you know, let's be honest, all of us know, we would never tell an individual straight to their face, they're really not a 10, they're a 7. And they should settle for a 5. You know you wouldn't tell any individual this. Not to their face. But that's what Kevin Samuels did. Online. Repeatedly. And he's not the only one that's doing this shit. There are a lot of men on the internet doing this type of relationship advice like this. MGTOW, they call themselves. Men going their own way. Well, you know, I don't think I've ever made a video about MGTOW. I've sort of kind of wanted to, but never come around to doing it. My first response would be on your way. Get gone already. We won't miss you. That would be my first response to this bullshit. Look, if 100% of your commentary is about an individual human being, group of human beings that you don't like, why is that 100% of your content? All of their content is about shaming and blaming and judging women. They're not talking about anything about themselves. I really thought when they were going their own way, that their own way would be about them. But no, they're still talking primarily, solely, about women, even though They're not with women. You can't make this shit up. They're not talking about bettering themselves. They're talking about the individual they claim to dislike the most. Women. Now I heard that this MGTOW, which transformed into the manosphere, has descended into ruin. Oh yeah, I heard the manosphere has died. Kevin Samuels wasn't the only thing that transitioned and passed. I've heard the manosphere died. And I heard it died in interesting ways. Not at the hands of sabotage of women. No. I heard that the manosphere died at the hands of men themselves. Here's what I heard. There were a bunch of men in the manosphere that got to arguing amongst themselves, jealous and envious of other men in the manosphere. It's rumored, that's what I heard. Now, doesn't that sound a little bitchy to you? Grown men, when they're amongst themselves, get to argue because of jealousy and envy they have for one another. And that's what's tanked the manosphere. Also, interestingly enough, all of these men who talk all of this shit about women are often found either in relationships or situations with women. I thought if they had gone their own way, they were a monk. I thought that's what it meant. But not in most of these YouTubers' cases. No, not at all. Now I know some people will say, Kevin Samuels isn't the only person who did this. And you're right. But I think what he did was uniquely and deeply problematic. Think about it like this. Who was his primary critique to? Black women in America. He pretty much denigrated black women all the time in America. Now, when you already are at the bottom by all metrics of account, do you really need someone to pile on? Or do you start needing someone to, well, pull people off? Think about it like it's rugby. And it's a scrummage. And they pile on. You gotta pull people off. So many people in America are the natural nemesis of black women. That they're in a unique position. They have no allies besides themselves. Because Kevin Samuels was telling predominantly African American men do not like black women. This is according to his content, not my opinion. What he would say. And instead of a lot of people saying, wait, this makes no sense, to say cruel things towards people and expect them to, well, ultimately like you. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you were out on a date and you told the person, you're really not a 10, you're a 7, and you should settle for a 5, I guarantee you the date would come to an end. And you would never see that person again. Tell me I'm lying. Nobody says this shit. If they do, let me know. So it's some wacky goofball, off-the-wall bullshit. And plus, it was a little bit strange, even for me. And I'm the strangest owl alive. I mean, this man said, if your daughter is in the shower and I walk in and I look at her and she goes back and tells her mother shouldn't believe her. She should believe him. I don't know. That sounds weird. First off, she's not your biological child. She has relations to the mother. And why wouldn't you knock on the door and announce who you were before you bust into a bathroom? And you say you know she's in the shower. He said that. And it's on YouTube. So don't try to say I'm saying something he didn't say. That was weird and strange. And I would never preach to a child to not be fully honest with their mother. That's misogynistic. Here it is, you're the stepfather. You have no relations to this young lady. But you're telling her to not trust her mother, and her mother to not trust her. That's totally patriarchal thinking. And it's led to some very dark consequences here on this planet. So there were a lot of different things that were deeply problematic. Very old and arcane ways of thinking. We want to try to circumpass and navigate away from and leap forward into something new. Let's talk about the wider relationship community online. You can't really give good relationship advice. All of these people who say that they're relationship experts don't read too much into that. What's something that works for a unique individual doesn't necessarily have to work for you. A lot of these relationship experts always tell you about tips and tricks that they use themselves. But what they never tell you is this. A lot of that shit doesn't work for them. They just tell you it works. But you have no proof. You're not there with them. You're not seeing anything. So it's like somebody tells you to do something goofy. And then they say, I've done the goofy thing, now you have to do it. Kind of like fraternities and pledges. That's why I never really liked all that shit. Because it's like, we did it. It was mindless and stupid. Now you have to do it. And you know it's mindless and stupid too. But because we did it, now you have to do it. I don't really like that kind of bullshit. If you realize it's mindless and stupid, let us be the last group that doesn't have to do it. You get what I'm saying? Relationship advice cannot be given by any one expert. Because there's no one reason. Relationships. There's no universal relationship. Everybody is their own sovereign individual. The reason a lot of relationships don't work is because people want to try to shape and mold another individual. If somebody wants to really be in a relationship, the other person has to want to really be in the relationship too. If somebody really doesn't want to be in a relationship, and somebody really does, the relationship is not going to work. So in order for the relationship to be a relationship, both people have to want to be in the relationship. The relationship experts never tell you this, because it evaporates relationship expert advice. All of it goes out the window. But you heard it here first. It's true. The biggest hang-up is people not allowing the other person to do what they want to do. You do you, and the other person does them. Those type of relationships do often find longer success. It doesn't mean that they always end in success. Remember, the vow, if you're married, is till death do you part. Well, we know some people get married 3, 4, 5 times. Or in some cases, every year. Go to Vegas. You'll see. Tax purposes, I know. Look, I think the manosphere, the MGTOW, all that shit, wave bye-bye to it. I think it's gone just like Kevin Samuels. It's certainly not going to withstand the test of time. It's going to look like a bunch of grown men whining and bitching and complaining about their responsibility. A lot of it boiled down to men who were upset about child custody court and having to pay child support. Now here goes the individuals that tell you that they're pro-life. but don't want to pay to take care of a life. And then say, well, I'm willing to pay, but it's kind of expensive. Well, yeah, food is expensive. Diapers are expensive. It doesn't consume as much food as you. But we're now finding that baby formula, there's a shortage. So you know it's going to be a spike. And baby formula was already expensive. This you would know if you've ever worked with newborn mothers or women who have breastbearing children. But most of you haven't, so you don't know. We know. So, MGTOW, bye-bye. See, I knew this was going to happen in 2022. It took a long time, though. This whole notion of some type of phony and fake male solidarity is bullshit. When women say men aren't shit, men say that too. Who's the main person? If you've ever been out on the street, who's the main person that will rat you out? It's your male partner, your homie, your bro. So all of these notions about men and solidarity. Do you see women going to women's events, shooting in mass other women? Or do you see men going to other places in mass, shooting, murdering? Mostly men, but oftentimes women. Who do you see doing this? So, this whole notion of gang violence, aren't those mostly young men shooting other young men? Do women do drive-by shootings? Or is that men killing other men? MGTOW didn't want to be genuine and do a fair-minded assessment. Because if MGTOW and the men in the manosphere, wanted to do a fair-minded assessment, they would have to come to the conclusion that toxic patriarchy has caused all the problems you see right now in front of you. Women have never been in charge of the operating system. So you can't blame women and feminism for a situation solely caused by male governance, male economic governance, male political governance, male religious governance. Across the board, everything is patriarchy. But yet, feminism comes out of their mouth. That's why I was like, this is a disingenuous argument. Now, if women were in charge of something, and then you looked at that in comparison to what men were in charge of, and then you looked at the difference, and you said your management is better than women, snapshot of that, right? New Zealand and America. COVID. Would you rather have been in New Zealand under Jacinda Ardern and her leadership? Or would you rather have been under Trump and Pence in America, where 1 million of our citizens have tragically succumbed to a virus and 500,000 to 250,000 were preventable? All the experts are saying it was preventable. 250,000, 250,000 were completely preventable. You gotta stop and think. It's not just the passing of Kevin Samuels. It's the passing and transitioning of toxicity. And it happened right before Mother's Day. You know, people don't pay attention to things. Even when Mother Nature tries to send you a signal. It's the transition of the manosphere. I heard it died. And women didn't kill it. It was actually men who do the majority of murders and killing. That shockingly stabbed other men in the back through jealousy and envy and destroyed their own manosphere. The Batcave only worked with one individual in the Batcave. If more than one bat is in the cave, it's no longer your Batcave. Did you really think something like that was going to survive? And I think it was done out of envy. For the real coming together in solidarity of women towards other women. You notice, and we're going to talk about this very shortly, the whole transgender debate in our society. You notice who the most vocal critics are, correct? They're all men. I wonder why that would be. Maybe they see a transition away from their dominance, away from their toxic patriarchal ways. And they just can't come to terms with the situation. I don't know. None of us know. But we do know that it's not looking good for the manosphere. I'm not surprised by this. When all you have that binds you is rage and toxicity. Look at what they gravitated to. The Proud Boys. Violence. Rage. Anger. But that was already naturally there towards women. You were already upset that you have to pay women child support. So they heaped on another lump of anger with governance and politics to the point where they stormed the nation's Capitol building and who are chanting to hang the vice president. But they're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't need any help. Have you ever watched a fast moving train wreck? That's what it appears for a scene.